Hello Year 3s and welcome to your next Flip Classroom video. This week in science we've been looking at our skeletal structure. We've also been looking at specific names of bones that are found in our bodies. I'm just going to share my screen with you and we are going to have a recap of what we have looked at, as well as going through our knowledge organizers and looking at what we will be looking at through the rest of the term. So, as mentioned, and I'm going to come back to this, we learned that our skeletons help us to walk, run, and move. Our muscles, which we're going to go into a little bit more detail next week about, are attached to our bones by tendons, and we are able to move because these tendons pull our bones backwards and forwards. So we learned that our skeletal structure is for walking, running, moving, but also protecting us and protecting specific organs in our bodies. So we're going to now go through our knowledge organizer, and I'm going to read through the important things that we need to remember this term. So starting at the very beginning with the things that we have already started looking at is we are going to be learning the human skeleton. Now, the picture that we have there has a few more labels than we originally looked, a few more labels than we specifically need. The bones specifically that we need to learn are the ones that are labeled under important bones to remember. And those are the skull, the ribs, the pelvis, the clavicle, the scapula, your fibula, your radius, your ulna, your spine, and your tibia. Now, if you pause this video, see if you can look on the skeleton and find those bones that I have just read out. You may also remember we mentioned that you've got the mandible, there's the sternum in the middle of your ribs there, and there are a few, and my favorite, and I did tell my class this, but my favorite word when you're learning the bones are phalanges, and those are your bones at the bottom of your fingers here. They're called your phalanges, which I think is a very funny word. Next week, we are going to be looking at the muscles found in the human body. Now, that diagram shows you the specific muscles that we have in our bodies that help us to move and help us to run and walk and move certain parts of our body, like our arms and our legs. Most importantly, we need to learn about the biceps, the triceps, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, and your gluteus maximus muscles. Now, the picture that you've got there, you may see a shortened version of some of those names. So we do have biceps there, we have hamstrings. Your quadriceps are sometimes called your quads, if it's a short one, or we have quadriceps there, hamstrings, and your gluteus maximus is sometimes labeled as your glutes. So pause the video now and see if you can find these 5 muscles on that picture. This will help you in our next lesson when we look at muscles in our bodies. Right. Some important vocabulary that you might need for this term are the following words. Skeleton. Say it with me. Skeleton. Skeleton. And a skeleton supports the body and it protects the softer parts of the body. Joint. Joint. And joints are the places in your body, for example, in my elbow here, where the bones meet. So I've got bones that meet in this specific joint here, and it allows movement here. And this is where our muscles and our tendons, they help the movement of my bones in that joint. Socket. Socket. The socket is a hollow place in which a body part rests or turns. So that could also be in here where the bones are connected together in the joints, and it rests there. You get sockets in your pelvis here where your bones rest. There is still movement there, but it is a hollow place, so a hollow space where your bone would rest. Vertebrates. Vertebrate. A vertebrate is an animal with a backbone. Now, an invertebrate is an animal without a backbone or a bony skeleton. So that's invertebrate. Invertebrate. Next word is tendon. Tendon. And a tendon is a cord of tissue that attaches the end of the muscle to a bone or another part of our bodies. Organs. Organs. Organs are things like your heart and your lungs, and they are parts of an animal that perform a specific function. So your lungs would inflate when you breathe in and deflate when you're breathing out, so they help with our breathing. And our heart is pumping, it's continuously pumping blood through our bodies. Protection. Protection. And to protect something is to keep it safe. So our ribs are protecting our organs in our body. Muscle. Muscle. And muscle is the tissue in animals and humans that moves parts of the body. In the next part of our knowledge organizer, we're going to look at the muscular system, vertebrates and invertebrates, and what our bodies would be like without a skeleton. So our muscles are used in our body and every day, and some are voluntary, some are involuntary, so some we don't even realize are working when they do. And muscles are how we move and live. All movement in the body is controlled by muscles. Some muscles work without us thinking, and we call this involuntary, like our heart beating, while other muscles are controlled by our thoughts and allow us to do stuff and move around. There are over 650 muscles in the human body. Muscles work by contracting and relaxing. When the muscle contracts, this pulls the bone that it's connected to. Muscles are able to pull but not push bones back to where they start or where they started. So that movement comes with a contraction and a relaxation of a muscle. And in this picture, you can see a bicep relaxing and the tricep contracting, and then the bicep contracting and a tricep relaxing. So they work together to get that movement. One's contracting while one's relaxing, and then one is contracting when the other one is relaxing. When looking at vertebrates and invertebrates, vertebrates are animals that have a backbone inside their body. The major groups include fish, amphibians, reptiles. So amphibians are things like frogs, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So we are looked at as a vertebrate because we have backbones in our bodies. And invertebrates are animals that don't have backbones. They either have a soft body like worms and jellyfish, or a hard outer casing covering their bodies like spiders and crabs. And then lastly, our bodies without a skeleton. We've already looked at this, but without a skeleton, our bodies would have no support and would flop around. Your skeleton consists of 206 bones all linked together. And the main function, the primary function of the skeleton is to support your body and to protect the soft organs inside. So it supports, it protects, and it also helps us move. As mentioned, we've already spoken about what our skeletons do. So lastly, these were the important bones that we have looked at: our skull, our ribs, our pelvis, our clavicles, our scapula, our fibula, our radius, ulna, spine, and tibia. So my challenge to you is going to be the following. While you're at home, can you create yourself little labels on pieces of paper and label the different parts in your body where these bones are found? And then you can share with me when you come to school next week about where these bones were. Don't forget, you are able to share this on Tapestry if you would like, or come and find an adult and say, I have watched this video, this is where this bone is, and this is where this bone is. So don't forget to share with us what you have found. And my last question is, for a house point, so I will give out one house point to someone who comes and tells me what was my favorite bone name in a body. And they were the ones that go at the end of our hands. What were those bones called?